athletes, welcome to a A-level video on ergogenic aids, and I'm just going to talk you through some of the things we're going to look at. Three types of ergogenic aid that we study at A-level: pharmacological, physiological and nutritional. And today we're going to look at the pharmacological ones. Here we are. So we're going to look at anabolic steroids, erythropoietin and human growth hormone just in this video, and in the next videos we'll move on to physiological and nutritional. Now, you've probably heard of many of these already. I'm sure you've heard of some of the simple things such as hydration. You've heard of caffeine, and you've probably heard of steroids, maybe not EPO and human growth hormone, but we're going to discuss them briefly in this video and look at the sort of athletes that might take these ergogenic aids. An ergogenic aid, by the way, being anything that will improve performance, enhance performance. You may have even used some of the nutritional aids, physiological aids such as cooling aids, but hopefully you haven't used any of these pharmacological aids we're going to look at. So pharmacological aids, they're used to increase levels of hormones or neurotransmitters which are naturally produced by the body. They're synthetic versions of things that are naturally produced by the body, like testosterone. Most are illegal and all are prohibited in and out of competition. If found using these aids, athletes are subject to severe penalties, which include lifetime Olympic bans. Firstly, we'll look at anabolic steroids. I'm sure you've heard of these before. They're synthetic hormones that resemble testosterone and increase protein synthesis and muscle growth. They can be taken in tablet, capsule, cream, and most commonly a solution injected. They're prohibited, they're illegal. Unless you've got a prescription from a doctor, these are illegal. And obviously in most sports or all sports, I would imagine they are illegal to use. What sports are they common in? Anything with maximal and explosive strength-based sports, so sprinters, throwers, baseball players. When you're hitting that baseball and you've got that extra power, it can make a big difference, and we're going to look at someone from baseball shortly. And also rugby union, rugby league. So you can build muscle, you can become more powerful, you can build more momentum when you're running. Also very common in the weightlifting and bodybuilding world. Whether you'd classify this as a sport or not, I guess that's down to opinion. There's a little picture of Arnie on the screen there. I'm sure you're familiar with him and his use of anabolic steroids, which he was quite open about at that time, as it was an experimental period in bodybuilding and weightlifting, and steroid abuse was quite common in that era. What are the benefits of anabolic steroids? Well, they increase your muscle mass, your strength, your recovery, and if your recovery is increased, then you can train more often. You might be able to train twice a day that you're recovering so quickly. If you're rotating muscle groups, this would be for a bodybuilder. Increased intensity and duration of training, therefore you're putting more stress on your body, on your muscular system, your neuromuscular system, and therefore making larger adaptations than someone who's not taking steroids. Improved performance and more chance of winning. Yeah, so when you're stronger, when you're quicker, when you're more powerful, you can improve your performance, you've got more chance of winning. And athletes will do this because they're they just want to win, or possibly they're under pressure from their coach, from the family, or there's large amounts of money at stake. You look at the CrossFit Games, I think there's £1 million prize for the winner of the CrossFit Games. What are the risks of anabolic steroids? Well, irritability, aggression, roid rage, you might have heard it as, and mood swings. Also can damage your liver because your liver has to process these steroids that you're putting into your body. And potential heart failure, acne, hormonal imbalances, and obviously disqualifications, bans and fines if detected. These are things you need to put into your answers when you've got questions on anabolic steroids. Anabolic steroids come in a number of forms. That's why you'll hear different names when you might see in the news that an athlete's taken a particular steroid. They come in a huge number, so you might not recognise every name. You won't be able to remember every name. They're quite long words, but essentially they do the same thing. They mimic testosterone and therefore increase your power, your strength, your ability to recover, your bone strength, your muscle strength. One problem with them, research has shown that they don't necessarily increase the tendon and ligament strength as well, so it puts you at danger when you've got that large muscle mass that can produce such power, but your ligaments and your tendons can't cope with it. It can be cause problems. Okay, second one, erythropoietin, or EPO. You might see it as REPO, which is recombinant EPO, which is the synthesized version. There it is, RHEPO, sorry. A naturally produced hormone that is responsible for producing red blood cells. This can be synthetically made and injected to increase red blood cell count and oxygen carrying capacity. It's hard to detect through blood or urine samples as naturally found in the body. We produce it naturally, and I believe there wasn't a test until about the year 2000, a reliable test to track the amount of EPO or to test whether someone was injecting more EPO into their body. What's it good for? Aerobic sports, long distance running, cycling, possibly some team sports such as football and Aussie rules, anywhere where you're using your aerobic energy system and you're relying on the transportation of blood, which contains red blood cells, which contains oxygen, and therefore allows you to perform for longer. What are the benefits? Increased red blood cell count, therefore increased oxygen transport and aerobic capacity, increased duration before lactate threshold, before fatigue, and improved performance. What are the risks? Increased blood viscosity. You've got more red blood cells in there, so your blood becomes thicker, therefore it becomes more difficult to pump around the body. It can decrease your cardiac output because your blood's become thicker and more viscous. Risk of blood clots and heart failure. It will also decrease your natural production of EPO, as your body doesn't see that as a necessity anymore because it's getting it artificially or synthetically. And again, bans and fines, and obviously a tarnished reputation if you're found to be taking this sort of drug. Lastly, from this category, human growth hormone. So what are they? They're synthetic product mimicking the naturally produced growth hormone. It increases protein synthesis for muscle growth, repair and recovery. It can increase fat metabolism and lean mass. There is a decline in natural growth hormone with age. As you get older, your body produces less natural growth hormone. You might have heard some athletes having to take human growth hormone if you're in children, for example, if they're not growing as they should be, they might be prescribed human growth hormone. I think there's a few stories about Lionel Messi flying around that he was on human growth hormone at a young age to help him with his growth. So sometimes this will be prescribed medically by a doctor, but obviously it's illegal to take just as a performance enhancer. Prohibited. It's hard to detect through blood or urine samples as it's naturally found in the body. What sports is it used in? Strength-based performers, maximal and explosive strength athletes, powerlifters, bodybuilders, sprinters and throwers. So very similar to our anabolic steroids in terms of the athletes that we use it. What are the benefits? Increased muscle mass and strength, increased fat metabolism and decreased fat mass, increased blood glucose levels, increased speed of recovery, increased intensity and duration of training. So again, very similar benefits to anabolic steroids in terms of muscle mass and strength, increased intensity that you can train at, and recovery rates. So these might even be cycled together, human growth hormone and anabolic steroids. What are the risks? Abnormal bone and muscle development, enlargement of vital organs that can lead to organ failure, increased risk of some cancers and diabetes, and bans and fines again, and a tarnished reputation. So we've got anabolic steroids, EPO and human growth hormone. Let's look at some athletes and put this into context. Now, you probably recognise some of these athletes. Certainly you'd recognise Lance Armstrong at the top there. I did a little bit of research on Lance before doing this video, and some of the stuff that you can find, it's not just one drug that Lance Armstrong was taking, and this isn't fact, this is just some stuff that I've read, so it might not be completely true, but I think he's spoke about most of it. He was taking EPO, blood doping, so blood transfusion, testosterone injections, androlol orally, which is a anabolic steroids, cortisone injections, so the two types of steroids, the cortisone type, corticosteroid, and then there's just the ones that you would know more about, which are your anabolic steroids that he was taking as well, human growth hormone, and also some other stuff, sort of anti-diabetes medication that would help with oxygen transport, oxygen delivery as well. So there were quite a few for Lance Armstrong, and there wasn't a test generated until, like I said, 2000 for EPO. So, but also you listen to some of the stuff cyclists say, and they mention how much EPO is being used in cycling. So you literally have to take it if you want to keep up and be at the top in cycling. You have to match everyone else and take the drugs that they're taking. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. There's Marion Jones on the left, so not just men taking testosterone or anabolic steroids, synthetic testosterone, women as well. She was taking THG. She won 5 medals in the Sydney Olympics 2000. She was, and she admitted to that eventually. The two that you may not have heard so much about, we've got the baseball player Jose Canseco, played baseball, hit 40 home runs in one season. This was a few years ago, I think this was 1988, but baseball has had a few other instances of drug taking. Obviously it's a sport where you need to generate power to move the baseball a large distance, and he's scoring a lot of home runs, and you can see the size of him there, and he later admitted to taking anabolic steroids. I don't have a specific one there, but he was taking anabolic steroids, and you don't need to know the specific names of the steroids. Anabolic steroids alone will be fine at this moment. And then we've got a UFC fighter or mixed martial arts fighter, Anderson Silva from Brazil. He was caught, or admitted, he was tested taking 2 types of anabolic steroid, so sort of cycling them or stacking them. It's quite common for athletes to stack anabolic steroids together, and the reasoning for this is to get quicker results or better results. Again, whether that's true or not, then perhaps needs to be a bit more research on that. And he was also found with a diuretic as well, presumably to try and remove any traces of the anabolic steroids that he was taking. But there's 4 athletes. You can probably name a few more, or think of a few more, that have taken drugs, performance-enhancing drugs in the past. In next videos, we'll look at physiological, then we'll look at nutritional ergogenic aids as well. Good luck.